Let's keep that conversation going now with the National Senator for Victoria, Bridget McKenzie. Bridget, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So, first of all, would you support a review of the justice system in Victoria, and then perhaps something that moves towards a royal commission at a federal level?
Well, what I'd support is more frontline services to deal with domestic violence against women. It's great to see the media really putting this in front and centre. Finally, for too long, these type of incidents have been behind the front door, and we need to see more frontline services on the ground. It's all good and well to have tough penalties, but if they're not enforced, women will continue to be subjected to this type of violence, and particularly from partners and men that they know. And it's not just government funding, Pete, it's how we raise our sons to be great men. We want them to be masculine, but we want them obviously to have healthy relationships that are sustainable. So, if somebody gets an AVO applied to a former partner, then that needs to actually be enforced before it's too late. And I think we've been talking a lot about social media and its impact and influence on people. You don't have to go very far down the rabbit hole of social media platforms to find violence against women being promoted, celebrated and normalised. And I think that's something we really need to look after our sons and our daughters over the, all of us, not just governments or the police force.
So support services to the side for a moment. There is this other push this morning for harsher penalties, and that includes tracking devices such as ankle bracelets for those who breach orders, bigger fines as well. Would you support those measures?
Well, I think we've got to have everything in the toolkit to actually bring these numbers down. Yes, it is about enforcement. Yes, it's about tougher penalties and monitoring, but it is also about stopping it before it starts. And that means raising men and women who don't see this as an acceptable way to have a relationship. And for us all, as parents, but also as community members, to call it out when and where we see derogatory behaviour towards women.
Okay. Somewhat related, I guess, because it's social media, it's online, as you were just talking about there, but it's a different topic. We're talking about the X push, this stoush in the federal court at the moment, freedom of speech, that graphic footage should remain online. That's basically the argument that X is taking. Who are you backing in this stoush?
Well, I'm saying that Australian laws need to be complied with in Australia. I think it's quite a unique situation that we're seeking to apply Australian law outside of our domestic borders. So we'll see where the courts land on that. And it has become a bit of a national sport to beat up on billionaires like Musk. Everyone's deleting their Twitter account, but no one's giving back their Tesla. I think it's really interesting to note, Pete, that the bishop himself that was subjected to this terrorist attack in our suburbs doesn't want this footage taken down. He wants the awareness raised, and he also doesn't want it to be politicised against free speech. And so I think that's really useful to know. We know we can find violent footage of previous assassinations of presidents, of popes on the internet. So I think the fact is that a terrorist attack occurred in our suburbs, and we need to be aware of that. The footage also shows, obviously, Bishop Emmanuel praying for the perpetrator and exercising his Christian faith as well, which I think is a really powerful message to come out of the footage.
I think there's, just beyond that too, the trouble that I can see happening here is if there is this push for violent images to be taken down, whether it's online or whether it's on X or whatever, where do you draw the line? What becomes violent and what doesn't? Do you have to start taking down footage from 9/11? Do you have to start taking down footage of fights in the Northern Territory? What's violent and what's not?
Exactly, Pete. And I think that's why for us in the coalition, we've been pushing for one of the e-safety commissioner's recommendations about having an age sort of gateway on the internet to pornography and aggressively violent images, so that at least young Australians aren't automatically subjected to violent pornography, etc. And I think that's something that we should be testing here domestically, rather than, as you say, trying to be the arbiters for everybody on what determines violent footage.
Bridget, good to chat. We'll talk to you again.
Always.
Have a good weekend.
See ya.